Welcome to the Speak Uneasy podcast. Please support my show by like, share, and subscribing to the show. You can find my videos on BitChute, Rumble, and YouTube. Catch my live stream shows on the foxhole.app or pilled.net. Follow my social media on the speakuneasy.tv, pilled.net, Gab, Facebook, Instagram, and CloutHub. You can also financially support the show by donating to my PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, or visit my merchandise store or join my Subscribe Star. You can also financially support the show by donating gold pills via the foxhole.app or pilled.net. All links can be found on the description box. Thank you and welcome to the bar.
Welcome to the Speak Uneasy, a safe space where cancel culture does not exist because we are in a different prohibition era.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Speak Uneasy with your host, the bartender. Tonight's random read comes from the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verses 15 through 17. Daniel's strength fails. And when he had spoken such words unto me, I set my face toward the ground, and I became dumb. And, behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips. Then I opened my mouth, and spake, and said unto him that stood before me, O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me, and I have retained no strength. For how can the servant of this my Lord talk with this my Lord? As for me, straightway there remain no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me. Once again, tonight's random read came from the book of Daniel, chapter 10, verses 15 through 17. Daniel's strength fails. Now, here's my little take on this, and this is perfect for me today. I'm not having a good day today. I'm pretty bummed out. Sometimes you feel like you're doing the right thing, right? Sometimes you feel like you're doing the right thing. But there are factors outside of your control that happen. For most part, you can control a lot of things that you are in control of. But sometimes there's just outside factors that you can't control. Especially when you're doing something that you think is right, but it gets interpreted the wrong way. That's where I'm at. I mean, as far as what this random read is telling me, I have tried to do something that I thought was the right thing without getting into too much detail, and apparently stuff just gets out of hand, and you try to salvage what you could salvage, right? But sometimes it's just, I don't know. So this may not make sense to a lot of you, but it kind of makes sense to me. I guess sometimes we have to be slapped down in order for us to wake up and realize certain things And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with, I guess you can say like a rude awakening for something, right? But I take this message and I accept it. It's a hard thing to take sometimes, but nonetheless, I mean, it's a lesson learned, a very hard lesson learned. So that's my take on today's random read. So for tonight's cocktail, we will be making the rattlesnake. A little history on the rattlesnake. I found an article here from disfordsguide.com. This article was... Who's it written by? Because we want to give them the credit here. Well, there's nobody's name on this, so... Here we go. So the little history on the rattlesnake. The rattlesnake first appeared as a recipe for 6 people in Harry Craddock's 1930 The Savoy Cocktail Book, with the notation, so called because it will either cure rattlesnake bite or kill rattlesnakes, or make you see them. Interesting. This recipe and the drink's newfound popularity is influenced by a modern-day adaptation by Will Elliott at Mason Premier, Brooklyn, New York City, USA. Okay, so it's a very short history. One of the ingredients calls for an egg white, but I am not going to use an egg white. Usually the egg whites give a certain texture to a cocktail, which is why an egg white is used. So I'm going to make this without the egg white. So right now I have my rocks glass being chilled right now. So we're going to go ahead and start using this. So this one calls for a rye whiskey to be used. And today's rye whiskey I'm using is a Mitger's Straight Rye. So first thing is, it's asking for 2 ounces. So let's get 2 ounces of rye whiskey in there. All right, so we got 2 ounces of rye whiskey in there. Let me just wipe down the table here real quick, because we want to make sure that we don't make a mess around here. I mean, a little bit just dripped down, so can't mess up my workspace here. Okay, so next we're going to put about an ounce of lemon juice. So what I have here, what I'm going to do, I don't have lemon juice on me, so I do have a lemon that I'm going to squeeze out here. So I'm going to strain the lemon juice as I'm putting a strainer on the shaker here while I squeeze the lemon juice out of the lemon. So I got about a half a lemon here, which is, it's going to be about it's going to be less than an ounce of lemon juice. I mean, I'm only working with what I have right now. And what I have right now is a half of a lemon. So that's going to be about like a half ounce. But the recipe does call for about an ounce of lemon juice. All right. Next, it's going to be about 3/4 ounces of simple syrup. So let's get that in the shaker. All right. And from here, we are going to go ahead and add ice into the shaker. Now I'm going to go ahead and dump the water and ice out of the rocks glass here. And we're going to shake this rattlesnake thing up. Here we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is it's asking for some absinthe as well. I have an atomizer with some absinthe in it. So I'm going to spray a couple sprays in the empty glass. And I'm going to put some ice inside the rocks glass. And I'm going to go ahead and pour the drink in there. So I did a double spray on the empty glass, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to top off another spray on the cocktail. All right, rattlesnake. Let's try it out. Here we go. Cheers. Okay. It's no different from a Gold Rush or a whiskey sour, to be honest. Even though I sprayed some absinthe in there, which absinthe, if you've never had absinthe, it's got a licorice taste to it. I don't really taste it at all. It tastes like a Gold Rush or a whiskey sour. It's a good drink because I really like whiskey sours. So, that's all. That's all I have. I mean, there's nothing else to describe it. If you've had a whiskey sour or a Gold Rush, and a Gold Rush is the same thing as a whiskey sour, the only difference is you're using bourbon instead of whiskey. So, man, I mean, it's a good drink. You get more of the absinthe on the nose as opposed to getting it on the palate. So here it is, the rattlesnake. Cheers. And on to the show. So the first article that we have for tonight that I'm going to be reviewing comes from the Federalist. Article was written by Gabe Kaminsky on August 12th of this year. Article reads, California dishes out condoms to female inmates after Newsom forces them to live with men. Female prisoners in California are being dealt contraceptives, including condoms and Plan B, according to reports from the nonprofit Women's Liberation Front. Pregnancies, abortions, and contraceptives are allegedly happening in women's prisons after Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill last year mandating women to live with transgender men. Newsom approved the far-left initiative last night, signing SB 132 into law. The law says prison officers are required to probe into whether an inmate identifies as, I guess I gotta read it, quote, transgender, quote, intersex, or, quote, non-binary. and take steps to allow the inmate to request a transfer with inmates of the same sex they claim to be. Following the passage of SB 132, there were approximately 300 inmates who requested a transfer, according to the Los Angeles Times. Are they really that credible? I'm just saying. The outlet estimates that 1% of the state's prison population, 1,129 people, do not identify with their original sex. Whoa. Well, this is what happens when you allow people to identify what they want, when there actually is only two genders, of course. But what do I know? I'm not a scientist. This is just me talking. According to Women's Liberation Front, a nonprofit that advocates for traditional sex and opposes pro-transgender legislation, female inmates in California's largest prison have described the new condition as a nightmare's worst nightmare. I think we all should have seen this coming already, right? Prisons are displaying posters in medical rooms describing women as, quote, pregnant people, and advertising access to, quote, contraceptive counseling and your choice of birth control methods by a licensed healthcare provider within 60 to 180 days prior to the scheduled release date. Women's Liberation Front described how pregnancies were vanishingly rare. Well, they were rare until they decided they wanted to put male inmates in with females. I'm just saying. At least transgenders with male parts. I don't know. In female state prisons prior to SB 132. However, one such reported case, and possibly more, was reported to the group in August. Last month, female inmates claimed they are now, hear this, prey to men. And it's not praying as you're praying to God. It's prey like you're being hunted prey. Due to the new law, Amber Jackson, an inmate, wrote in the Santa Monica Observer that it is a disgusting time to be in prison. Nowadays, due to trans women possibly carrying communicable diseases. Jackson's op-ed also claims 3 of the 4 males she referenced are HIV positive. What kind of human being would... Oh, that's another spin too, because when you... I guess in California, if you purposely infect somebody with HIV or AIDS, that's only a misdemeanor. Even if you know that you have it. What kind of human being would intentionally cause harm by placing a number of HIV-infected, anatomically male prisoners among the female prisoners? Jackson wrote, "Nobody is making this known. Nobody cares about us. We are in danger here. Make no mistake." Julie Haff, a spokeswoman for the Los Angeles Republican Party, told the Federalist that this is another failure of Newsom and his policies. Well, you voters should have figured that out when he tried to run San Francisco and didn't do a great job of doing it. Matter of fact, he made that city even worse. How is this protecting women? Even if they're in prison, it's not, Haff said. There is nothing to prevent some man in prison to say he identifies as a woman, right? What if he's a serial rapist? How do you handle that? We need to protect the women in prison who are vulnerable. Once again, this article was written by Gabe Kaminsky of the Federalist, and this was published on August 12th of this year. Well, this is what happens. This is what happens when we allow people to identify as whatever they want and give them that power to believe that it is true, even though they still possess the genitalia of what they were born with. It's a sad thing. But then again, I mean, if people want to vote that way, and if people want to continue to believe that they want to believe about themselves, about how they identify as opposed to what they are, this is what happens. Society's crumbling because this is part of it. This is part of the reason why society's crumbling, because people are doing whatever they want to do. I think that's a problem. To an extent, you could do what you want to do as far as making a good difference, impacting somebody's life in a very positive way, or even impacting humanity as a whole in a positive way. That's when it's okay to do what you want to do, because your intentions behind it are good. Not to say that things can go out of hand, because things can go out of hand, but having to do like positive things to advance the future of humanity, to go to that next level, I support it. I don't support stuff that's illegal, or I don't support things that are morally bad or anything like that. I don't. I mean, part of what I do here is, I read these articles and I try to, give my thoughts, I guess. It's a reactionary podcast as far as like reading articles go. I give my 2 cents on it because I want people to think. Like, people can listen to that article or even read that article and have a different way of looking at it. But I think it's fair to say that if I had a little bit of say in what's being written, people can. I'm assuming people are mature enough to kind of step outside of themselves and say, "Hey, maybe he has a good point there," or I agree, or even if they say I disagree. At least I'm making some kind of point there. So, yeah. I saw this coming. It all started with a particular shopping store, I would say, which allowed these transgender women to go inside female bathrooms. I don't have to mention what store I'm talking about, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people out there have an idea what store I'm talking about. Doesn't need to be said. I don't think that's important, but I do think the start of all this came from that. And it's only going to get worse. Especially if you have children, please. As parents, as really good parents, please protect your children. We are living in such a different world than at least I was a kid. It's so different now. We have to be a lot more vigilant about our children's protection. Hell, I wouldn't even let my kid go play right in front of my house by herself. I have to watch her, or my wife has to watch her. That's how crazy it's gotten. And I really don't want to restrict my daughter playing outside. I want her to enjoy the interaction with other children out there, being active, as opposed to staying in the house and just playing video games. I want her to be physically active out there and interact with other kids. But we have to be more vigilant about watching our children, because things have gotten out of control. There are kids out there who are being kidnapped in broad daylight, right in front of the parent. So, this all correlates with each other. I'm not saying that all transgender or people of that nature are sex predators. I'm not saying that. Because even straight people could be sex predators. Anybody could be a sex predator out there. Anybody. But when you open doors like this, when you allow when you allow this door to open, not a lot of people are going to be honest about what they identify as, because there's an ulterior motive in their brains. Like the article said, what if they're a sex predator? What if they're a serial rapist? That is a valid argument. What if? It's a free-for-all. Once you get into the female prison, it's a free-for-all. I'm just saying. So, I'm going to take a break. We're going to review another article. Again, having to deal with the children, but in a different capacity. So, I will see you guys on the other side. Welcome back to the other side. So the next article we have comes from my go-to source, stupid.news. This article was written by J.D. Hayes on August 13th of this year. Article reads, Oregon Democrats ditch proficiency requirements in reading, writing, math for graduating seniors, creating next generation of sheep. I think that's, sheep is a very, very, very weak word when it comes to that, because now you're just producing unintelligent people if they can't do any of the basics of life. That's just my opinion. Okay, for decades, Democrat educators have said correctly that the way out of poverty for poor Americans of color, especially who are trapped in endless cycles of poverty and crime, was an education. Fundamental to lifting yourself out of poverty, they argued was learning how to be proficient in key subjects like reading, writing, and arithmetic. But today, of course today, Marxists have taken over the American education system, and a lot of the Democrat Party, so the emphasis now is not creating future generations of well-educated Americans who will be good stewards of the country and our Republican form of government. Rather, the emphasis is churning out mind-numb zombies, and robots, who can think for themselves and must be told what to do during every phase of their lives, while the left-wing elite continues sending their kids to the finest schools where they get good educations while they are groomed to be the leaders of the sheepish mass. This is unfortunate because it's true. It is very true. And if you doubt any of that, perhaps you can come out with a better explanation as to why Oregon's Democratic supermajority would pass legislation ditching requirements to show that graduating seniors are proficient in reading, writing, and mathematics, and why the state's goofy governor, Kate Brown, signed the legislation on the down low with no fanfare, unusual for her and for her administration. The New American reports, Foundations for a Better Oregon, which advocated for the legislation, said in a statement that the bill is intended to truly reflect that every student needs to thrive in the 21st century. Supporters of the bill insisted that testing on essential skills has historically hurt those with poor test-taking skills who would otherwise graduate. I think that's such BS right there. It's a spin-off of making excuses. It puts minorities in a disadvantage, I guess you can say, to make them feel that they are less than everybody else, which is not true. Everybody has the potential to be the greatest they can. And now I'm not reading the article right now. I'm giving my opinion midway reading the article. So, it doesn't matter what you are, man. I think everybody has the potential to be the greatest they can. They have to do that themselves, though. It was not explained how those students would graduate if they failed to demonstrate proficiency in skills that are deemed essential, but State Senator Lou Frederick, of course he's a Democrat in Portland, noted that the tests have been very flawed. Dude, that's a spinoff, man. That's a spinoff. That's like they're finding freaking holes in this thing, and therefore unreliable in evaluating students' knowledge. Frederick added it wasn't fair for students who have suffered or fell behind during distance learning imposed due to the Charlie Victor 19 pandemic to approach graduation with an already flawed system. There is no flaw in an education system that actually works to educate our children, which, by the way, was a founding objective of the American public school system. But it has been overrun for so many decades by left-wing revolutionaries and social engineering Marxists that today's public education apparatus in no way resembles what it was founded to be. I agree. But then, these public schools started getting funded by, like, the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, and all these organizations, I don't know. It's painful for me to even read this because it's setting up the future for failure. I mean, granted, my daughter is not in public school, but just the stuff that she has to deal with as an adult if she's surrounded by this. If she's surrounded by people who are actually getting past school with no skills at all. It's sad. Instead, our public school education has become a test bed for the latest fads and culture trends. That's true. Our kids used as guinea pigs for social experimentation for the amusement of and manipulation by the very concentrated elite, whose own children are otherwise provided excellent educational resources and opportunities to excel. Man, this is so true, dude. I mean, it's so true. While average American children are dumbed down in the name of equity or fairness, the goof is that they will achieve neither once they are unleashed into society, unprepared mentally and academically to get ahead in life and become productive members of society. Fortunately, we have liberals in our society who understand what this horrific legislation is really going to do to the kids who will be allowed to graduate as subpar learners. This is very grim, man. And I hate having to read stories like this, but it's one of those things that people need to realize that's going on. It can get, it's very taxing on the mental psyche. With states like Oregon now eliminating the need to demonstrate proficiency on basic subjects with standardized tests, American education faces the perfect storm. Despite record taxpayer spending on public schools, too many government-run, union-controlled schools are still failing students, particularly minority students. In teaching the basic subjects needed to succeed in life, liberal constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley wrote this week in response to the new law. Too many schools are graduating students without testing barriers for graduation. Then too many may go to colleges and universities that have also eliminated standardized testing for admission, he added. At every stage in their education, they have passed along by educators without objective proof that they are minimally educated, Turley noted further. Once again, this article came from stupid.news, written by J.D. Hayes of August 13th of this year. Now, my thoughts on this. It's bad. It's bad. And I mean, Oregon's governor already signed this into law. So I really don't know what I can say about this. I mean, the right thing to say would be, this is wrong, F this, and all that, and all this and the other. But, I mean, people really need to see what's going on. This is very obvious of what's going on, man. Like, if you have ignorant people out there, they're going to be very easy to be controlled. I mean, plain and simple. It's as easy as saying that. But for some odd reason, the general public, or I want to say the normies, I guess, and I hate using that because I don't know. I don't know. They're willingly accepting this stuff. I'm not. And I know, there's a number of people out there that do not agree with this at all and know that this is probably going to be really bad. But this is where it's headed to, oh my goodness. This is difficult. This is a very difficult thing to grasp. It really is, because having to imagine my daughter go through this when she gets older. This is too much of a burden for her to handle. I mean, it's a burden for us right now to handle. This is too much for us to handle. This is affecting the future of our children, and is there going to be a future for America? I don't know. I mean, they've already gotten the education system, clearly. They've gotten into positions of power in the government. Pop culture, forget about it. I mean, that's a given already, right? I really hate to sound doom and gloomish, people. I'm really sorry, but what do we do? What do we do? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm at least bringing awareness to this. The only thing I can say is that we have to pray. We have to be more spiritually in tune with God. Because history is definitely repeating itself as far as what's happened in the Bible. We're seeing it happen all over again. And I don't understand this. I don't understand this where we know the stories. We've seen history. Well, at least for some, for a lot of us that are older, we were at least taught history. I mean, the history might not have been 100% true, but there was some truth in it at least. And we've seen what happened in history. And it's having to repeat itself again. Even with people who believe in Marxism or communism, didn't history teach them that it does not work? And they end up destroying themselves as well in this process? That's the part I don't get. I don't get it. Time and time again, history has proven that. But for odd reasons, I don't understand what it is, people are still drawn to this idea of Marxism and communism. Keeping people down and keeping the elite up. I don't understand. This is difficult. This is a difficult time. It's a very difficult time. It's very difficult for me to grasp an understanding of this. And, you know, today started off really rough for me. It really did. But I still have to keep pressing on to what I'm supposed to be doing here. I have to. No matter what the challenges are, I'm still going to be pressing on to it. Well, I mean, all I can say is, look, this is what I got. This is what I see. This is what I got. And I'm telling you guys what's going on out there. And we need to change this. Even if we're too late to change things, can we at least give up some kind of, can we at least push back against stuff like this? Because this is basic stuff in life. Reading, writing, and math. That's basic stuff in math. I mean, not math, but basic stuff for just living. Right? Because how do you, for example, if you go out to get a job, how do you even apply? How do you even fill out an application if you don't know how to read and write? Or if you go to the store and you buy something and you have to get, you're going to get bamboozled into, you don't know how much change to get from your basic subtraction from here. I'm buying this. Here's the money and it's more than what it costs and you're supposed to be getting change back and people can't calculate that. I see it too. I freaking see it when I go to a restaurant sometimes, and when I give them, let's say that something I buy is $9.10, right? I give them $10.10. Now, basic math would tell you I get $1 back change, but sometimes they struggle with that. I see them getting a calculator out and trying to figure that one out, and that's a very simple thing to figure out without a calculator. I mean, I admit when I'm reading this stuff, I stumble across my words because I'm horrible at it. But at least I know how to read. And if I do make a mistake with a word, I try to correct it as best as I can. This is such a different world, man. Even having to get educated is a racist thing. I mean, or, something to that effect. This is absolutely crazy. I never thought in my lifetime that I would be living in a world like this. And you guys probably think the same way too. Oh. But we have to keep pressing on. We have to. I'm mentally getting beat up here, but I gotta keep going, man. I got to. And you do too. If you absolutely believe in freedom and what this country is supposed to stand for, then no matter what kind of beatings you take every day, you just got to keep going forward. Just keep going forward. Having that relationship with Christ really does help out. It does for me. Because it makes me understand that there's more to this than actual control. It's a battle between good and evil, spiritually speaking. And yes, it has become a very spiritual war too, because of everything that's been going on. The spiritual part of it has spilt out. There's no way of hiding it anymore. So, well, that's all I have for today. And, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer today. I really don't. I really had a hard time starting my day off doing this. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit late in doing this, but I did it nonetheless. I still got to keep pressing on. I still got to do this for everybody out there. And I seriously hope that that things get better. So, as I end every show, whether I be in good spirits or not, as I end everything, with that being said,
The bar is now closed.
I can't help but wonder if I'm under a spell. It's more than a passing notion. I've never fallen with such devotion. I can't help but wonder if it's only a dream. Am I naive or can I believe that things are really as they seem? Can anyone explain how to understand what's true? I know I just can't tame it. Whenever I'm with you, I can't help but wonder if you wonder about me. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might be. Can anyone explain it? How to understand what's true? I know I just can't take it. Whenever I'm with you, but wonder if you wonder about me. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might be. 'Cause lately I can't help but wonder how wonderful this might